History doesn't always begin with kings, generals, or great battles. Sometimes, it begins with people no one ever notices. The miners of Fen 6 never thought their names would matter. They weren't soldiers. They were ordinary men and women in patched suits, pulling nickel and ice out of a frozen moon at the far edge of nowhere. The Terran Accord had claimed Fen 6 decades ago, but no senator had ever set foot there. For the miners, life was survival, not politics. Work the shifts, drink when you can, raise children under artificial skies, and hope they grow strong enough to leave. On the day everything changed, 16 of them were outside the dome when the ships appeared. The Threx Consortium didn't waste words. Their cruisers fell from orbit like blades, their hulls glowing with heat as they cut through the atmosphere. No warnings, no negotiations, only a cold projection cast across the settlement for everyone to see. Trespassers, illegal extraction detected, violation of Imperial resource law. The miners froze in place. Their overseer tried to raise a come signal, shouting that Fen 6 was under Terran Accord protection, but the line was dead, jammed before his words could leave the ground. Then the soldiers came. Tall, insect-like figures wrapped in black armor, mandibles clattering in perfect rhythm. They moved without hesitation, herding the miners to the center of the excavation site. No trial, no translator. Only a verdict, carried out with the efficiency of creatures who saw human lives as numbers in a ledger. Among the group was Maya Chen, barely 20 years old. She stared up at the sky as the execution rifles powered on. Maybe she thought the Terran fleet would arrive. Maybe she believed someone would save them. No one came. The shots rang out across the ice. When it was over, 16 bodies lay in the dust, their blood freezing before it touched the ground. The Threx commander calmly recorded the scene, filed the footage as proof of compliance with Imperial law, and left. For them, it was not personal, just another order enforced. The Empire shrugged when the report reached them. A minor incident. A reminder that humans were still young and had not learned the rules of the stars. But the footage didn't stay hidden. Within days it spread through human networks, families sobbing over broken transmissions. Shaky video of black-armored soldiers standing above lifeless miners, and then Earth ignited with fury. Colonies roared for vengeance. In the halls of the Galactic Senate, where silence usually drowned out everything else, one man stood ready to break it. The Galactic Senate had watched empires rise and collapse for 10,000 years. Its chamber sat inside a hollowed asteroid the size of a continent, built not as a temple to compassion, but as a monument to survival. Polished marble floors gleamed under artificial suns. Hundreds of floating platforms circled a central dais, each carrying a delegation from one of the galaxy's great powers. Here, fear was the real language. When the Vaoth devoured 3 star systems in a single solar cycle, the chamber stayed silent. When the insectoid cream streamed the executions of whole populations, senators took notes, not sides. In this place, wars were theater, genocide was weather. To endure at the high table, you did not weep, you endured. So when 16 miners from a small, unproven species were slaughtered on a frozen moon, the Senate should have dismissed it as routine. The Threx Consortium had cited resource law, boundaries had been crossed, enforcement was brutal, yes but well within precedent. And yet, whispers moved through the chamber. 16, unarmed, hissed a reptilian delegate from the Zelvar Dominion, forked tongue flicking. Terrans breed fast. They can spare 16, said a crystalline envoy from the Tal, voice like grinding glass. They scream louder than their size justifies, clicked an insectoid from the oath. Always emotional, always dangerous. The chamber's Cheran, aged elder of the Zelvar, brought his staff down against the dais. The chamber dimmed. All eyes turned to the center projection. The footage appeared. 16 humans, hands bound, forced to their knees beneath the black-armored soldiers of the Their faces were pale, but unbroken. One girl, Maya Chun, looked skyward as the rifles began to hum. The chamber watched her fall. They watched them all fall. 16 lives, extinguished in silence. For a single heartbeat, the Senate's polished mask cracked. Then the murmurs returned, some disgusted, some amused. A message, nothing more. They should have followed the law. Predictable. No one expected what came next. The sound of armored boots on marble. From the shadowed entrance, a figure stepped into the light. He was not draped in robes, nor covered in jewels. He wore battle armor scarred, dented, battered black plates. No sigils of ancient dynasties, no ceremonial markings, only the faded insignia of Earth. The murmurs faltered. Every delegate knew the name before it was spoken. General Elias Grant, Supreme Commander of the United Terran Forces, humans had no seat in the Senate. They were newcomers, a young species with barely 3 centuries in the stars. To the elder races, they were pests, ambitious, noisy, temporary. Their colonies clung to the edges of mapped space. Their fleets were acknowledged, but never feared. And yet, the man who walked into the chamber carried himself as though he belonged, tall, weathered, a face carved not by privilege, but by survival. His armor bore scars older than some of the species seated before him. His eyes scanned the chamber not with awe but with the cold calculation of a soldier measuring targets. He did not bow, he did not wait for permission. He walked straight to the center dais, boots striking hard against the marble, and stopped beneath the glare of 100 alien gazers. This silence was different. It was not fear, it was disbelief. The Galactic Senate had been built to humble its guests. Every arch soared like the spine of a god. Every shadow stretched to remind the individual that they were nothing more than a piece of a machine older than memory itself. Delegates from ancient empires sat cloaked in silks, metals, and scales, basking in the illusion that they belonged to that eternal machine. Grant refused the illusion. He stood in the center dais, battered armor scuffed by a dozen forgotten wars, its plates dull and scarred where others wore jewels and woven histories. The silence in the chamber bent around him, not respect, not yet, but something sharper, attention, the kind that cuts. The chair moved first. The elder Zelvar leaned forward, silver scales rippling beneath the artificial suns. His voice was a hiss, rough as stone dragged across glass. You stand uninvited in this chamber. Humans hold no seat. State your purpose before this body decides your fate. Grant's reply slid through the silence like steel drawn from its scabbard. Calm, exact, unflinching. My purpose is simple. 16 Terran citizens were executed on Fensix. No trial, no warning, no honor. They were miners, not soldiers. Their only crime was being human in a galaxy that thinks us too young to matter. The chamber stirred. Murmurs bled across the tiers. Illegal settlers. Jurisdiction breach. Enforcement. The Threx ambassador rose, his platform tilting upward like a predator stretching its limbs. Black carapace gleamed under the Senate lights, mandibles clicking in practice to stain. They were warned. His voice rasped through the translator, metallic and cold. Territory lines were clear. The consortium does not tolerate thieves. Your people chose defiance. Grant didn't flinch. His gaze locked on the insectoid, and something heavier than words pressed through it, the weight of a man who had lived his entire life counting the cost of death. They chose survival. They clawed a living from rock so their children could breathe one more day, and you chose slaughter. The Threx ambassador's mandibles widened, mocking laughter chittering across the chamber. 16 lives, a small price against the will of the Empire. The galaxy moves forward. Weak species learn their place. Grant's boots struck marble as he moved closer to the podium. The sound cracked through the silence like artillery fire, louder than any applause. Then consider this your first mistake, Threx. Humanity does not learn its place. We carve it. A ripple spread through the chamber. Some delegates laughed, amused by the arrogance. Others leaned forward, eyes narrowing. For the first time, they measured the human not as a nuisance, but as a problem. The Zelvar chair struck his staff, the sound reverberating through the dome. You disturb the order of this chamber, human. Speak with care. What is it you seek here? Retribution? Compensation? Grant's lips curved, but not into a smile. Something colder. I seek clarity. The Empire needs to remember something it has forgotten. His gaze swept across the platforms, pinning species who had outlived 100 civilizations. His voice hardened with each word. You killed 16 of our people. You called them criminals, but to us they were citizens, fathers, daughters, Terrans. And Terrans do not forget. The Threx ambassador clicked his mandibles louder, striking back with venom. Your kind is reckless, emotional. You speak as if words shield you from reality. The Empire is vast. Humanity is a flicker. We are law, you are noise. Grant did not blink. Then listen closely, because this noise will echo. For the first time, the chamber faltered. Silence spread, not the silence of indifference, but of unease. The Senate had grown used to humans begging for recognition, for resources, for scraps of protection, but this one was not begging. He was measuring, and waiting. The Senate chamber had never heard a human voice ring so loudly. Grant stood at the center, his scarred armor catching the false sunlight above, his shadow stretching across marble polished by centuries of alien rule. He was not the tallest in the room. He had no jeweled robes, no glowing aura, no crown. He was only human, but he spoke as if the chamber already belonged to him. You killed 16 of our people. His voice cut clean through the air. You called them illegal settlers, criminals, thieves, but they were citizens of the Terran Accord. They were families, workers, innocents, and you murdered them. The word landed like a hammer. Murder. It was not a word the Senate liked to hear. They preferred softer terms: enforcement, consequence, collateral. But Grant stripped away the pretense. Murmurs rippled outward. The Threx ambassador rose again, mandibles clacking furiously. They were warned. The lines were marked. We are within law. Grant didn't flinch. His gaze was cold, unblinking. Then consider this your warning. The chamber froze. Translators hummed, ensuring they had heard correctly. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of a blade pressed against the throat of the Empire. We are not here to beg. Humanity does not bow, we do not forget, and we do not forgive murder dressed up as law. He walked slowly across the dais, making eye contact with each delegation, as though he was studying them one by one, not as abstract powers, but as enemies across a battlefield. You call us young, he said. You call us primitive, emotional, dangerous. You're right. We are all of those things. But don't mistake youth for weakness. Don't mistake emotion for fragility. Humanity remembers war better than any of you. From the crystalline envoy of Tal came a hiss of disbelief. War. What do you know of war, Terran? Grant turned his head sharply, pinning the envoy with a soldier's stare. My grandfather fought in trenches of mud under skies filled with fire. My father fought in deserts where the air itself burned. I have fought in vacuum where silence is louder than screams. Every generation of humanity has been tempered in blood. Our history is not peace, it is survival. And survival makes us strong. He planted himself firmly in the center again, his voice echoing off marble walls. You measure empires in millennia. We measure survival in days. That is why you fear us. Because when pushed, we don't negotiate. We fight, and when we fight, we don't stop. The Zelvar chair leaned forward, his voice sharp with warning. Do you threaten the Empire, human? Grant's lips curved, not into a smile, but into something colder. No. I promised the Emperor. A shiver of unease ran through the chamber. Then Grant tapped a device on his wrist. The air shimmered, and holoscreens burst to life behind him. Images filled the chamber. Terran fleets training in the shadows of neutron stars. Stealth dreadnoughts hidden in uncharted systems. Orbital cannons buried in moons that never appeared on treaty maps. Soldiers drilling in silence, their eyes like steel. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. Until this moment, they had believed Earth's quiet was weakness. But the images did not show weakness. They showed patience, preparation. Grant let the silence drag, then spoke again, voice low and cold. If another human is killed anywhere, by anyone under the Empire's banner, consider it not a complaint, not a protest. Consider it an act of war. The word thundered like a detonation. The Threx ambassador screeched in outrage. Madness. War against the Empire, against 1,000 species united. Grant leaned forward, voice like a blade. Push us again, and we will not send diplomats. We will send Marines. Gasps rippled across the chamber. For the first time in centuries, someone had spoken to the Senate not with reverence, but with threat. Grant turned slowly, letting his gaze sweep across every alien face. You call us reckless, you call us dangerous. You're right. Because, unlike you, we do not fear extinction. What we fear is silence in the face of evil, and that fear is what makes us unstoppable. No one laughed, no one smirked, even those who despised him said nothing, because in that moment, every being in the chamber felt the same thing. This human was not bluffing. General Elias Grant stood alone against the galaxy, and the galaxy, for the first time, hesitated. The chamber was frozen in silence, Grant's warning still hanging in the air like smoke after a blast. Some delegates leaned forward, hungry to see if he truly meant what he said. Others leaned back into the shadows of their seats, as if distance could shield them from the storm that had just been promised. Grant raised his wrist again. The small device glowed. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, across the vast holomap of Imperial space that filled the chamber, lights began to flicker. 3 satellites empyroned, orbiting worlds deep in the core blinked out, not destroyed, not scattered as debris, simply silenced, vanished from the network, cut off as cleanly as if they had never existed. The chamber gasped. The crystalline tall envoy pulsed with sharp alarm. The insectoid oath snapped its wings in agitation, a dry hiss filling the air. Even the usually unshaken Zelvar chair flared his silver scales, unable to mask his surprise. The Threx ambassador screeched, his mandibles opening wide in fury. This is sabotage. This is an attack on the Empire. Grant's reply came calm, measured, deliberate. Not an attack, a demonstration. No fleets destroyed. No lives lost. Nothing vital touched. Only silence, delivered at will. If you believe we are weak, ask yourselves, what else do you not see? A ripple of unease spread across the chamber. Hidden fleets, cloaked weapons. The possibility that Earth, dismissed as young and naive, had been quietly preparing all along. Preparing for a conflict the galaxy had never imagined. Grant let the silence stretch before speaking again, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the dome. Humanity does not seek war. We do not crave conquest. We seek respect. If that is impossible, then remember this. He turned his eyes toward the Emperor's High Representative. For centuries, the figure had sat unmoving within a throne of living metal. Now its ancient gaze was locked fully on the lone human below. Grant's words carried like a blade across the chamber. We do not fear extinction. What we fear is silence in the face of evil, and that fear is what makes us unstoppable. He lowered his wrist, leaving the satellites dark. He did not bother restoring them. The message was delivered. Then he turned sharply and began walking toward the chamber doors. No bow, no farewell, no glance behind. Each strike of his boots against marble echoed through the chamber, louder than applause, louder than protests. Behind him, the silence of the Senate was no longer disbelief. It was realization. For the first time, the galaxy understood. Humanity was not pleading for survival. Humanity was offering a choice. The great doors closed behind Grant with a final, echoing thud. It sounded less like a dismissal and more like a tomb sealing shut. His footsteps faded into the long corridors, but the weight of his words remained behind, pressing down on the chamber like gravity itself. For a long moment, no one dared to speak. The Senate, an institution that had survived 10,000 cycles of arguments, decrees, and war, sat frozen in silence. The first voice came sharp and furious. The Threx ambassador's mandibles snapped as he shouted, "Madness! The Terrans must be crushed before their arrogance spreads. They cannot be allowed." Silence. The word cut across the chamber, low and sharp. It came from the Zelver chair, his silver scales glinting under the chamber light. He leaned back slowly, claws flexing against the carved arms of his seat. His narrowed eyes never left the doors Grant had walked through. He was no friend to humanity, but neither was he a fool. Did you not see it? Did you not feel it? That was not a plea. That was a line drawn in fire. To strike them now would not be conquest, it would be war. And war with a people who value survival above life itself. His words trailed off, but no one missed the meaning. Across the tiered platforms, whispers spread like smoke. Some dismissed the human as arrogant, others murmured of hidden fleets, unseen weapons, of a species too reckless to predict. For the first time in centuries, the Senate faced uncertainty. Humanity had always been expected to wait, desperate, submissive, patient. But the image of Elias Grant walking out without fear seared itself into their minds. The galaxy had been given a choice, and no one knew which path humanity wanted them to take.